Thank you, everybody. Good evening and welcome. I'm Ralph DeCesar, the president of FIAZI. I want to say thank you all for attending. By coming here tonight, you help support FIAZI with our education and networking efforts, which help fixed income professionals and students in all stages of their career. In your booklet, you can see a listing of some of our most recent presentations, as well as a few upcoming meetings, which you are all invited to attend. Please check our website for updates. Tonight, we'll induct Curtis Arledge, Joyce Chang, and Dr. Harry Markowitz into the FIAZI Hall of Fame. First, I wanted to say thanks to the many people who helped put together tonight's event. It includes the FIAZI board members, its past presidents, its corporate sponsors, and the current Hall of Famers. Now, here's the outline for tonight. Right now, dinner will be served. A little after 8 p.m., we'll get the ceremony started, so enjoy yourselves and welcome, and see you in about an hour. Ladies and gentlemen, can we get started, please? Can we get started, please? Take your seats. Thank you. That means you, Jack. Thank you. We are pleased to welcome Marty Leibowitz to kick off tonight's festivities. Marty is a managing director of Morgan Stanley's research department. Prior to joining Morgan Stanley, he was vice chairman and chief investment officer of TIAA-CREF from 1995 to 2004. Marty is an amazing author, having written more than 200 articles on various investment topics. The 1972 classic Inside the Yield Book is perhaps his best-known piece in fixed income, with a new edition just being published in 2013, which is available wherever books are sold. Besides being the first inductee into FIAZI's Hall of Fame, Marty's also received 3 of the CFA Institute's highest awards. But one of the things that Marty is most proud of is his friendship with Harry and Barbara Markowitz. Marty.
Harry Markowitz doesn't really need an introduction, but I know they would enjoy a little roasting anyhow. In 1952, as a young, unknown 25-year-old at the University of Chicago, without a Ph.D., without a professorship, I guess without a job, he published his first paper called Portfolio Selection in the very prestigious Journal of Finance. The key idea, there he is, the key idea, he looked different back then. The key idea is that risk mattered as much as return. This led to the framework that eventually became known as modern portfolio theory, MPT. MPT has proven invaluable in asset allocation, risk control, attribution analysis, and just about everything that has to do with portfolios and the markets. But Markowitz rather quickly went way beyond finance to do groundbreaking work in several other areas. Sparse matrix techniques he developed for solving large optimization problems in any field. He designed a computer language, a compiler language, for producing generic simulations with great ease. And he came up with a novel idea. This is only a small example. He came up with a novel idea for a portfolio rebalancing technique. This was a conjecture. He couldn't prove it. No one could prove it. But several years later, many years later actually, a team at MIT burned up hundreds of hours of mega computer time, as optimal as one could get. In 1990, Harry Markowitz was awarded the Nobel Prize in Economics. That was just one Nobel Prize. Many would argue that he deserves more than just one Nobel Prize for all the accomplishments that he has achieved. And his wife, Barbara, also deserves, I think, a number of prizes of note for putting up with him, especially since this gentleman has a habit, daily habit, of working into the wee hours of the morning. Here's what some people have said about him. Charlie Ellis. The 1952 article fired the shot heard round the world. Peter Bernstein. Before Harry Markowitz, there was no genuine theory in finance, only folklore. Bill Sharp. My greatest intellectual debt is to Harry Markowitz. David Svensson from Yale. Harry Markowitz's optimization technique is the most useful analytic tool in all finance. Jack Bogle. We should all applaud his elegant proofs. Robert Merton, another Nobel Prize winner. The Markowitz model is the primary model in finance. Gifford Fong. Harry Markowitz is more than a genius, he's a double genius. Andrew Lowe from MIT. His work is a fount of great wisdom to savor page by page. Marty Gruber from NYU. To truly understand portfolio analysis, one must read a great deal of Markowitz. Another pioneer in the development of MPT, Jack Traynor, says Markowitz's work stimulated a vast outpouring of new ideas. Rob Arnott, who is a founder of and president of Research Affiliates and has co-authored several papers with Harry, says, it is truly inspiring to see how his boundless curiosity never stops exploring the interconnection between ideas and markets. And beyond being a true polymath and a giant in his field, Harry Markowitz is a world-class gentleman. Well, that's the good side. Let's put this all into a little perspective. Harry, what have you done for our market, for bonds, for fixed income? And we all know the answer. Well, actually, in fairness, much of his work on asset allocation, long-term investing, diversification strategies, and retirement planning does apply to fixed income, at least indirectly. But in terms of direct papers, to my knowledge, well, let's put it this way, Harry doesn't pretend to be an expert on bonds, unlike many of the people here in this room. In fact, his granddaughter, Melody Folkman, is she here? Where is Melody? Ah, there she is, okay. Melody is Harry's granddaughter, and her proudest moment, she told me, was when Harry pointed to her at a family gathering and said, she is the expert in the family on bonds. So, well, of course, that could still make Harry very knowledgeable about bonds. But if not in bonds or in fixed income, in just about every other area, Harry seems to have an obsession to repeatedly come up with one seminal paper after another, often in the wee hours of the morning. And these papers have the character of upending the conventional wisdom and disrupting the standard practice in the respective fields. Now, I believe I speak for most everyone here in feeling that our field, our precious little field of fixed income, our treasured field, if I may say so, does not really need any more disruption at this point in time. And that is precisely why we want him to become part of the Hall of Fame. Once he's in the hall, our fond hope is that he will feel less inclination to focus his penetrating and disruptive intellect on our cozy little fixed income market. But aside from that petty consideration, we should all be proud to have him join the Fiazi Hall of Fame, because Harry Markowitz's presence will surely enable and enrich not just the Hall of Fame, but Fiazi itself, and indeed all who have chosen the fixed income market as their field of endeavor. Fellow Fiaziers, I give you the Harry Markowitz.
Am I on? Yep. Okay. I should quit while I'm still ahead, I think. I mean, I can't top that. In fact, first, a news bulletin. You have probably seen these raging forest fires, which are around San Diego County. Let me assure my friends, well-wishers, and especially my granddaughter that Barbara and I, our house is not near a forest fire, nor is my work near a forest fire, because my house and my work is not near a forest. Anyway, with that news bulletin, if Marty Leibowitz had said, we want you to be a fixed income Hall of Famer, I would have said, Marty, you've said awful lots of nice things about me. You've been very kind to me, but I can't become a Hall of Famer, fixed income Hall of Famer, because I don't know anything about fixed income. And if I don't know whether Frank Fabosi is out in the audience someplace. I think he's associated with your folks. If he said, Harry, we want you to become a fixed income Hall of Famer, I would have said, Frank, we're a co-author and so on. But I can't do that because I don't know anything about fixed income. I usually like to talk to people where I know at least as much as they do about the subject. But when you get an email saying, Dear Grandpa, could you do me a favor? What you going to do? Okay, so that's why I'm now speaking to you folks. What I'd really like to say in a few minutes, I promise. Thank you. I think you're applauding Melody. Anyway, Fiazi, there she is. Oh no, not that one. That one over there. Hi, Melody. Okay. So here's a topic which I think we share. That's me speaking from the podium, from the non-podium. I think this is we're a bunch of very nice people. I have a very nice granddaughter. I got a very lovely introduction from a very nice, wonderful person. Everybody I know in finance, bonds, stocks, whatever, are nice people. But that is not the way we are portrayed by Hollywood, by movies and television. The prototypical picture of somebody on Wall Street is this slimy, which Michael Douglas portrays, which says, greed is good. Now, I understand Boesky was a bastard, but I didn't know Boesky. So the question is, what can we do to counteract, and it's not just one, it wasn't just once Michael Douglas did this greedy thing. There used to be programs on television about how Colonel Sanders did this and so on and so forth. Now it's the American greed. And I understand there's another Wall Street typical portrayal of all you lovely people as greedy bastards. Now I think the solution is not to get up and say nasty things about Hollywood people, although I understand that some of these Hollywood types are not paragons of virtue. Michael Douglas could have said promiscuity, drug abuse, and alcoholism is good as long as Hollywood types do it, and have been, percentage-wise, not 100%, but slightly closer to the truth than greed is good by a Wall Street type. I think the answer is not just to complain, but to educate, to get onto certain large investing institutions or certifying organizations like CFPs or CFAs could get 1-minute spots saying, yeah, there are bad guys in our field. There are bad guys who are doctors. In fact, if your objective in life was to cheat people, would you take a medical degree so after 70 years you can start, or many more years, you could start cheating Medicare? No, you'd hang out a shingle, say financial advisor. Since there's no law against hanging out a shingle saying medical advisor, you could. But if we were to make a point of educating the public as to what you should expect in terms of who keeps the money, the custodian, what kind of custodial arrangement, what kind of reporting, what kind of auditing there should be, then, and just 1-minute spots, and for further information, look at our website, whatever it is, then maybe we'd get across that there are good guys and bad guys, and most of us are good guys, and there's ways of partly telling, with a certain amount of a little degree of certainty, plausibility, tell the good guys from the bad guys, get that message across. So I think that we have a common bond in portraying us as we are. Anyway, the fires are not near here. I'm glad to see Melody in the audience, and I really do thank you very much for this honor. Thank you.
If we can get one picture with you, Dr. Markowitz, just smile to the camera, please.
There's Marty. Hi, Marty. So are we off or are we on? My award? Is that my award? Was Melody going to come up? Hi, beautiful. That's fun.
How about this?
Okay, thank you. Next up, will be Joyce Chang. Introducing her is David Robbins, Managing Director of Emerging Market Strategies for TCW. Dave is co-manager for the firm's traditional international EM bond. He began his career at Morgan Stanley, where he's head of emerging markets trading before moving to Lehman to run global emerging markets trading. David and Joyce are ardent supporters of charities advocating for women and girls, including Trickle Up, as well as a number of other cultural institutions in New York. Please welcome David Robbins.
Thank you very much. I am very honored to introduce Joyce to you this evening, and since we've been married for almost 20 years, I better be. I know we're all used to disclosure here, so I will just say, from the outset that I am clearly biased, and I am, along with many people in this room, really in awe of Joyce's energy, her intellect, and her capabilities. We have two wonderful children. Matthew and Isabel, who's here with us this evening, who are constantly inspired and exhausted by their mom. But today we're here to talk about Joyce's amazing and accomplished career. Her history is as unique as she is. She grew up in rural Iowa, the town of Knoxville. If any of you are racing fans, it is known as the sprint car capital of the world. She attended Phillips Exeter Academy on a scholarship awarded only to newspaper carriers. The donor felt that any preteen willing to get up at ungodly hours in the erratic Midwestern weather really exemplified an industrious character and would be destined to succeed. And boy, in Joyce's case, he was absolutely right. Joyce attended Columbia University on full scholarship. She was one of the first of the class of women to graduate, and she recently received its prestigious John Jay Award for outstanding professional achievement. Her interest in public policy led her to the Woodrow Wilson Graduate School at Princeton University, where she worked for USAID in India, the Philippines, and the Middle East. Interestingly enough, one of her projects was traveling throughout Iraq to assess the potential for tourism. So how does a woman with this type of background end up on Wall Street? It turns out that in the late 80s, Salomon Brothers was early on in investing what was called LDC, or less developed country debt, what we now call emerging markets. Salomon needed an intrepid analyst to travel and assess these countries which were either in the midst of economic crisis or in the process of debt restructuring. For a young, starving public policy graduate student, it was quite a deal, and they paid interns by the hour. Joyce's first job on Wall Street, she earned $15 an hour. Needless to say, they soon hired her full-time, and Joyce's tireless work ethic, willingness to travel, and insightful analysis helped them enormously, and in a little over 5 years later, she was promoted to managing director, one of the youngest managing directors in the firm's history, and the first Asian woman at the firm to have that position. Some of her stories are legendary. In Algeria in the late 80s, she was on a research trip when there was a coup and the president of the country was assassinated. But did that stop Joyce? Not at all. She ended up being transported back and forth to her meetings in a military vehicle. Then there was the investor trip to Venezuela in the early 90s that included her whole group unwittingly passing a street protest on their way to their next meeting and in the process getting bombarded by tear gas. She still is somewhat unwelcome in Argentina after early on predicting their default in 2001. Some Argentine politicians prefer to blame Joyce for their predicament and her sway over the markets rather than their own policies. After Salomon, Joyce spent several years at Merrill Lynch and then in 1999 joined Chase before it became J.P. Morgan. Everywhere she worked, first Salomon, Merrill Lynch, and then J.P. Morgan soon became the #1 research department for emerging markets. In 2008, she was asked to manage the U.S. and European credit research departments the week after the Bear Stearns crisis. And in 2012, she was appointed to head all of fixed income research. Recently, she was promoted to run all global research at J.P. Morgan and is a member of the investment bank's operating committee. She manages a group of over 950 research analysts, economists, and strategists located in 26 countries. She has been awarded the Institutional Investor #1 analyst title over 25 times in the All-American and regional polls since 1997. She has been named as one of the top 25 most powerful women in finance by American Banker for the last 2 consecutive years and has been recognized by the Wall Street Journal as one of the top 50 women to watch. What Joyce does outside the office is just as impressive. She is a member and regular speaker at the Council on Foreign Relations, the Inter-American Dialogue, and a Marshall Fellow. Her charitable work has focused on improving the lives of women and those less fortunate living in emerging markets. She is a board member of Trickle Up, a charity which provides grants and business training to women living on less than $1.25 a day. Joyce is also on the board of Girls Inc., a mentoring program for inner-city young women in middle and high school throughout the U.S. She is a big supporter of children's arts programs throughout the city and a stalwart supporter of Exeter, Columbia, and Princeton, and all this time helping raise 2 teenage children in New York City. So it is with great pleasure that I, along with all her colleagues and friends, would like to congratulate Joyce on this prestigious honor on being inducted into the Fixed Income Hall of Fame in recognition of an extraordinary career so far and no doubt on into the future. Ladies and gentlemen, Joyce Chang.
Well, good evening, everyone. This is a night to remember for me. I'm following a Nobel Prize winner. I've been introduced by my husband. It's the first corsage I've gotten since my high school prom, and I didn't even manage to keep it on. And I'm being inducted into the Hall of Fame by all of the people who've intimidated me my entire career. So thank you all for being here tonight. I am honored and delighted to be here tonight. It's been a true pleasure to see so many people who have meant so much to me during my career, and some who I haven't seen for many, many years. And I also want to take a moment to congratulate the other honorees, Professor Markowitz and Curtis Arledge. Professor Markowitz, every person in this room has benefited from your pioneering work on modern portfolio theory. Who hasn't been a student of MPT? There is no one who's contributed more to the thought leadership on portfolio research, so I am just thrilled to be here tonight. And Curtis, you have a reputation and a lovely corsage and a track record as a true intellectual with a passion for understanding the details and drivers of markets. I'm humbled to be recognized with tonight's highly accomplished honorees. And I'm grateful to Mark Howard, the Hall of Fame chair, and to other members of the Fixed Income Analyst Society, particularly Chris Buck, Peter Pettis, and some others for this tremendous honor. To be in the same companies of the members of the Hall of Fame is something to treasure. And I want to thank all of my colleagues at JP Morgan, where I've worked for the last 15 years. I'm fortunate to work with the best researchers in the industry who inspire me, challenge me, and amaze me every day. And a special shout out to the women's table from JP Morgan, Women in Fixed Income Research, and for all of the researchers at JP Morgan. This is a team that motivates me to become better professionally and personally every day. Plus, they're a lot of fun to work with. So I am truly surprised to be here tonight. In 1990, the year that Professor Markowitz shared the Nobel Prize in Economics and Portfolio Theory, I was really still trying to figure out my life as a graduate student. I'd always had a passion for emerging markets and knew this is where my career would be, but I had never worked in the private sector, much less an investment bank. And my career plans were squarely focused on public policy. So during my last semester at Princeton, Solomon Brothers called up career services, and they wanted to see if there was any grad students working out what's called third world or LDC, less developed countries, because they wanted a part-time intern. No one thought this would be a full-time job, so they only needed somebody 2 days a week, paying by the hour. When I arrived at Solomon Brothers, it was an extraordinary time, and I am grateful to see one of my first mentors here tonight, Marty Leibowitz. How many people has Marty mentored over the course of his career, who ran the research department back at Solomon Brothers when I started? I was clueless. Marty put up with a lot of ignorance from me, and Marty and others at Solomon Brothers taught me fixed income, how to analyze risk, how to come up with a clear view, while developing the first analytics around emerging markets bonds. And I am still in touch with so many of my managers from Solomon Brothers because honestly, once in Solomon fixed income, always in Solomon fixed income. They still all work on bonds. Well, the Solomon LDC desk was this little niche within the corporate bond business, those people you kind of had to let out of the closet to be on the trading desk to do this stuff. At the time, most of the emerging markets debt was non-performing loans trading at a deep discount. Sovereign risk analysis was considered writing about the Quebec referendum or talking about AAA-rated World Bank bonds and how you would sell them to insurance companies. Loans, not bonds, were in circulation for emerging markets, and the business was dominated by commercial banks. Information was very scarce. Mexico released its reserve numbers 3 times a year. Most countries were not rated. So given the state of that market, Solomon Brothers had a brilliant and early call on emerging markets as an opportunity. As an investment bank, they hadn't suffered any of the losses because they weren't one of the original lenders. The traders were in the position to bid on the distressed debt that was trading at a deep discount, and the first packages I looked at were trading at about 10 or 15 cents on the dollar. At that point, Peru, I remember, one of my first trips, was trading at 2 cents on the dollar. The shining path had made the country ungovernable. Hyperinflation was over 10,000%. US banks wanted to write off their debt. If you bought the Mexico debt, you got Peru and the Ivory Coast and Nigeria for free. So those were the days. But then the fortunes of emerging markets changed when the Brady Plan was launched in the early 1990s. US Treasuries were used to collateralize the defaulted debt so that countries could begin the long process of coming back to the markets. And at Solomon Brothers, I was proud to create some of the first primers on how to look at emerging markets as an asset class. The Brady bonds at the time, for those of you who remember, were given completely appalling and completely unmarketable names like the Brazil IDUs, the Brazil interest due and unpaid bonds. Remember that? Some of you are laughing. See, this is a geeky crap, I can tell. Who would possibly want to invest in a bond called interest due and unpaid? So who would have thought that 25 years later, emerging markets would be investment grade, the debt level would be less than 1/3 the size of developed markets, and that emerging markets corporate bonds would be the same size as the US high yield market? Who would have thought that the Mexico bailout, then considered just unbelievably large at $15 billion, that was nothing compared to TARP alone at $700 billion? And nor would I ever have imagined that I would have the opportunity to someday run one of the biggest research departments on Wall Street, working with so many talented research professionals around the globe. So although he isn't here tonight, because he is based in London with the Herculean job of running the whole investment bank at JP Morgan, I have to express enormous gratitude to Daniel Pinto, who runs the corporate investment bank, another emerging markets old-timer, for his long-time sponsorship during the course of my career, which has not always been easy for him, and most importantly, for the sponsorship of independent, global, and comprehensive research that really serves our clients' needs. Since the global financial crisis, my experience in emerging markets bonds has come in handy looking at the US crisis and the Eurozone crisis. It's arguably been the best foundation that any research analyst could have for assessing the fallout from the banking bailouts and all of the financial crises that we've witnessed over the last 4 years, looking at the linkages between sovereign debt and the banking system and the outsized role that politics plays in addressing a crisis when public resources are involved. These days, it's harder and harder to separate the line between emerging markets and developed markets. It's all converged to BBB. You name it, it's BBB rated. Mexico, India, Russia, Brazil, Italy, Spain, Ireland, Verizon, Puerto Rico until a few weeks ago. It's all converged to one new normal these days. We're one notch above junk in a world that's below potential growth, offering much lower returns than what we're used to. So what are our fixed income teams at JP Morgan focused on right now? Over the past year, our teams have spearheaded research really challenging the market conventional wisdom that there would be a great rotation out of bonds and into equities. We've focused on how the global financial crisis has changed the structure of the entire fixed income market and the lingering effects of financial repression. Fixed income supply demand dynamics have shifted with the asset purchase programs, the collapse of structured products in the market, at the same time that the investor demand is being forced into these assets by macro-prudential measures and regulatory changes that make you hold more bonds. There is simply more demand for fixed income than available supply, which has driven valuations tighter and tighter. So when we started the year, the consensus was that this would be the worst year ever for the performance of bond markets. Who would have thought that US Treasuries would have outperformed the S&P this year, and that emerging market sovereign debt is actually the top performing asset in the whole world? Inflows into bond funds are back, running even with equity markets now. And we think that market participants will continue to be very surprised at how much money is compelled to stay in fixed income. There's going to be many twists and turns, keeping all of the members of FIACI very, very busy as analysts as they look at the markets in the years ahead. So I'd like to close by thanking all of you tonight for this wonderful honor. It's been a real treat to be here to see so many people that I've been inspired by and motivated by and learned so much from. Thank you to FIACI for such a special evening and for encouraging all of us in fixed income research to always aim higher with intellectual rigor and a real commitment to excellence.
Our next presenter, who will introduce tonight's third honoree, Curtis Arledge, has spent his entire career at BNY Mellon. He's that rare person who's only had to write his resume once. Having been hired right out of school by the company, he has led since 2011. Please join me in welcoming BNY Mellon's chairman and CEO, Gerald Hassel.
Well, thank you very much, and good evening, everybody. It's a real pleasure to be here and to be able to support our great colleague, Curtis Arledge. We at BNY Mellon think enormously of Curtis and his terrific contributions, not only to our firm, but to the fixed income industry. And he's also been great for our business. Indeed, since he arrived in late 2010 at our firm, the S&P is only up 58%, the US dollar is up 3.5%, and the US Treasury yield has fallen 6%. Not bad, Curtis, all in 3 years. Now that said, we were a little bit surprised that he was deemed worthy of this high honor, especially in a Hall of Fame class that included the distinguished Joyce Chang and the founder of modern portfolio theory, Dr. Harry Markowitz. So we came up with a few theories as to why this mystery is unfolding, that Curtis is being honored in this way. One, you must have lowered the bar for him. You seriously can't expect to take a whole lot from a guy who looks like he just graduated from his 5th grade class in the Mayberry school system. Our second theory is that he talks so quickly that no one really understands what the hell he's saying. You know, it's kind of, geez, he really sounded smart. Or 3, he talks for so long that he puts everybody asleep. So here's hoping none of you are rushing off tonight to try to catch your train, because between here and your train is Curtis, I'll be brief, Arledge. Seriously, I think Curtis truly, truly deserves this honor. You sit down, we're not ready yet. He is a visionary thinker who brings to his clients and the financial community a set of distinctive attributes the industry sorely needs. First, there is his vast and diverse experience. You know, Curtis has been a buy-side and a sell-side trader. He's been a hedge fund manager, a broker-dealer, capital markets executive, and now, of course, he's chief executive of our investment management firm. And also, very, very importantly, a very proud member and a great contributor to the U.S. Treasury Borrow Advisory Committee. Next is his insatiable curiosity and his 24/7 reading habits and his abounding love of exploring and sharing ideas, including those that fly in the face of normal convention. This is a guy who, more than 20 years ago, created an analysis regarding convexity and optionality of money management, which back then was pretty forward-thinking for the fixed income market. Now, he also has an incredible passion for bringing ideas to life, whether it involves creating better investment strategies for his clients or the work he is doing personally to improve the lives of individuals with autism and their families, as well as his distinguished efforts with the New York Giants head coach Tom Coughlin's The J Fund, which helps families tackle childhood cancer. Truly, he is a man of enormous character and certainly great depth. And there's the other side, the other critical attributes, is his refusal to compromise. Once he's formed a conclusion or settled on a goal and an idea, rarely does he back down. And I can personally attest to that one. Now, all of these attributes are an incredibly powerful combination. The world's 7th largest investment management franchise, helping restore trust to our industry, helping or waging the fight against autism. His passion for making a difference is unrelenting, and that's a powerful force. He's a man who has not only helped mentor, develop, and inspire hundreds of fixed income industry's current leaders, but set a compelling example both professionally and philanthropically. So there's no question in my mind that he is truly deserving of this high honor. So Curtis, I'm delighted to be supportive here in recognizing you in the Fixed Income Hall of Fame. Curtis, it's all yours.
I'll get you. Good evening. What a great night. Joyce, we have, I can't tell you how impressive your career is. I've followed it closely, and we have the Princeton Solomon Brothers thing going. Graduated from Princeton in '87, went to Solomon Brothers. I was in the quantitative analyst program. They decided to take the 250 people who had graduated from business school and expose them to 20 people who were undergraduates in fields that were quantitative in nature. I majored in electrical engineering, studied lasers, and my first day at Solomon, they said, this afternoon you'll be teaching bond math to the rest of the people in the training program. I said, that's fantastic, except I need to know what bond math is. They said, don't worry about it. You'll be surprised at that's not that challenging. You'll get it. And from there on, I watched the fixed income industry really evolve. The quantitative skills that were brought to this industry have advanced it dramatically. And while there have certainly been some ups and downs in the advancement around fixed income, I do believe that all of us in the room, and whether you're directly in fixed income or broadly in finance, I think we have a lot to be proud of. We've helped Adam Smith's invisible hand move capital from those who have it and need a return to those who need it and actually can do something productive with it. And I'll be honest with you, I'm extremely honored to be a part of this community, whether I'm in the Hall of Fame or not. So I really want to thank all of you who I've worked with all the years, and many of you in this room, and many who are not here tonight. I got some great emails from people just congratulating me, but really very proud to be part of what all of us have been doing for the past 27 years or so since I got involved. I had lunch. It was a really unbelievable honor to have lunch with Professor Markowitz about 6 months ago. He was here on the East Coast, and he doesn't get to the East Coast as much anymore, and it was astounding. It's one of those things where you sit for basically an hour and a half with your mouth wide open, not believing that you're sitting with someone who really changed the world. So to be here tonight, to be honestly, just to be able to watch him, forget about being honored alongside him, really fantastic. And I want to thank the Fixed Income Analyst Society for inviting me here tonight and then miraculously inducting me into the Hall of Fame. It really is quite an honor. When you look at the list of inductees, it's a really impressive list. I've had the great honor to work with many of them through my time, and this will be a night I remember for a long time. And so I really want to thank Fiazi for having me here tonight. Autism Speaks is a charity I am very close to. I have 4 beautiful children. 3 of my children are here tonight. My lovely wife, Diane, my oldest daughter, Taylor, who just finished her sophomore year at Penn State, my 14-year-old son, AJ, who thinks that this isn't cool because it's not a professional football Hall of Fame, my 7-year-old daughter, who has mixed everything at our table in terms of food. She's quite the chemist over there with the dessert. Unfortunately, tonight, my 18-year-old son, Dylan, he has a nonverbal, reasonably severe autism, but it really has been, while a challenging experience, has really opened my eyes to the world of those who live with lots of challenges that are all around us. And for those of you who don't know much about Autism Speaks, they put a pen on your table. Just read some of the facts on the back. There's 3 or 4 bullet points. Whether it's autism or other things that are close to you personally, all of us are here for a broader purpose, and it's been great for me to be able to help the autism community in whatever way I can, and many other communities, and I encourage you and all of us to do it. There are 3 reasons why I love fixed income. The first 2 are really about the intersection of math and human behavior. As a kid growing up, I would hear people say, time is money. But as a kid, you have no idea what that means. I was constantly trying to sell my time. No one would pay me for it. And then I was introduced to the concept of net present value. I was introduced to the concept of how much time is worth how much money. It really depends on the discount rate. Eventually learned it had a lot to do with what the prepayment rate might be, the default rate, the recovery rate, and lots of other things. But the math is fantastic. And while it's not a boundary value problem, it wasn't the differential equations that we had to solve to make lasers work and things of that nature. Actually, through time, it became quite advanced. And introducing math to finance, I'm thrilled to have been part of a period in history when it really did change the way people who needed money could borrow it, and people who wanted to invest could do it effectively. But the intersection with human behavior is just as interesting. In fact, when I look back over my career, some of the most interesting times were around periods when things happened that almost everybody believed wouldn't happen. Keith Anderson, who I worked with at BlackRock in the early days, Keith and I started at BlackRock before BlackRock was going to be an investment management company. When I went to BlackRock, they had $0 under management. And Keith and I would sit around and talk about various things that were happening, if we ever had any money to manage or had any other means of getting revenue. And we made a bet not long after that about what the maximum PSA would be on mortgages. We agreed that PSA was probably not the most quantitatively advanced way to look at prepayment rates, and made a bet with a few people that yes, prepayments would get above 300 PSA. Somebody in the room might know, but I think that PSA was pretty much ruled out as a valid measure when they got into the several thousands. And it was around the idea that mortgage refinancing just wouldn't ever happen like that. There wouldn't be a time that when people say that won't happen, that generally I would pay attention. For those of you in the room, those generally have created some of the great opportunities. And it's not because the random thing happens, it's that everyone positions against it. When everyone believes something won't happen, the truth of the matter is that so much capital is built up and bet against the fact that it will happen that if it does, the denial phase becomes a reality phase that I'm really exposed to that thing that might happen. Housing prices won't fall 20% nationally. No one believed real estate would go down. There have been many times like that. Leveraged loan prices wouldn't go below 98 cents on the dollar if there weren't a credit problem. I remember watching total return swaps unwind in 2007, 2008, and early 2009, not because the company had problems, not necessarily because the market was predicting default. It just was that everyone had bet that that couldn't happen. And so human behavior, watching people believe something so much so that they bet with all of their capital that it can't happen, fascinating part of the markets. About 3 weeks ago, a survey was done that showed that 67 out of 67 market experts bet that interest rates would go higher by the end of the year. That's like all of them. So when those kinds of things happen, it isn't that rates need to go lower, it's that the market is probably positioned wrong. And despite the objective nature of the math in fixed income, it's the intersection of the subjective element of human behavior that makes it so fascinating. I said there were 3 reasons why I love fixed income, and the third one is about all the people. People who are brilliant, people who are fascinated and curious. Yes, there are a lot of reasons why people get into fixed income, but if you stay in it for years, it's because you're passionate about it. It's because you wake up before your alarm goes off, and you are excited about the potential opportunities, the challenges, the solutions, what today's news might mean. I remember when I was a junior in college, I went to Stanford, and there was a professor there that worked with lasers I was dying to work with, and I took a class from him, and I also got a summer job at a French laser engineering firm, and they gave me my project, and I said, your project is part of a funding that we've gotten from the government. We're building a laser, and this project will be completed in 7 years from now. So I was, 21 years old. 7 years from now, that's a big percentage of my life. It would make it really hard the next morning to get out of bed. Truthfully, if I waited a couple extra hours, it probably wasn't going to hit change the deadline. The fixed income market is filled with people who are so intellectually passionate about what they're doing and the opportunities of the day and the week and the month. And while investing is about the long term, the news events, the challenges, the needs of people who want to borrow, and the money that needs to be invested to try to outperform some required liability, those things evolve minute to minute, and this community is filled with brilliant people who can figure it out and are doing it all the time. But it's also filled with people who are wonderful, that care about you. There are lots of ways to be intelligent, Lots of people have done quite well on the math part of the SAT in this room, I'm sure, but you're also emotionally intelligent. You understand what it feels like to not do well on your fixed income trade. You understand what it feels like to do an analysis that actually proves the value of a security is right, and it actually starts to evolve and create a new market. And so I want to just say again, it is a tremendous honor for me to be a part of a community and to be honored by that community that I think so highly of. Really means a lot to me. So thank you to all of you for having me here tonight, and I hope you had a great time. Take care.
Lauren, can you approach the front, please? Thanks. Just a few people to acknowledge for helping put this evening together. We have Pat Smith, Brian Shaughnessy, Ilana Turk, Robert Slocco, Brian, Melody Volgaman. Also, the reason why this room is filled is because of the head of credit strategy at BNP, Mark Howard. Mark, you around? There you go, Mark. And anyone who's ever been to a Fiazi event knows this lovely lady right here, Lauren Nauser. She holds everything together, puts it all together, including tonight. Thank you, everybody, and see you again next year.